Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and this is NB12 for Thursday, April 10th, 2012, broadcasting from the Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. In news tonight, Parliament is dissolved as thousands of registered voters anticipate the next general election. Hundreds of registered voters pick up their voters' cards. Customs and immigration workers go into their sixth day of protests. Guardian Talk Radio launches with the return of Gerald Miller, and a blaze breaks out at the city dump. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Your NB12 starts right now. Thanks for joining us. The House of Assembly is dissolved and an election date is set, with less than 30 days left for parties to make their final cases and Bahamians to decide who will govern the country for another 5 years. Vonique Toot has the details in this report.
In exactly 27 days, thousands of Bahamians will head to the polls to determine which political party will form the next government of the Bahamas. We can tell you that the date set for the 2012 general election is May 7th. Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham won't officially announce the election date until 8 p.m. when he delivers his national address. However, very credible sources have confirmed this date. Earlier today, Free National Movement Senator Dr. Dwayne Sands sent out a mass message via BlackBerry Messenger announcing that elections would be held on May 7th. However, National Security Minister Tommy Turnquest says he had no right to do that.
I got that message and I called him right away. He indicated to me that he heard it on Jones Network and he repeated it, which he should not have done, because he then gives credence to something only the Prime Minister has the authority to do. And so I wouldn't dare repeat it to you, or do I suggest you repeat it until the Prime Minister announces it.
Dr. Sands let the cat out of the bag minutes before the House of Assembly was dissolved. Provost Marshal Police Commissioner Alison Greenslade read this proclamation on the Governor General's behalf on the steps of the House of Assembly at 2 p.m.
Proclamation. In exercise of the powers conferred upon the Governor General by Article 66, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, I, Sir Arthur Foulkes, Governor General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, do hereby proclaim that Parliament shall be and is hereby dissolved on the 10th day of April 2012.
The Provost Marshal, who was accompanied by his top brass, Attorney General John Delaney and Cabinet Secretary Anita Bernard, neglected to mention when the House would reconvene. Therefore, 2 hours later, he returned to the steps of Parliament to make a second proclamation.
Both Houses of Parliament, namely the Senate and the House of Assembly, after being duly constituted by the appointment of members and the election of members thereto, as the case may be, shall meet in the chambers of the Senate, Parliament Street, in the city of Nassau, and the House of Assembly, Parliament Street, in the city of Nassau, respectively, the usual places for the dispatch of the business of the Senate and the House of Assembly, at 10 o'clock in the forenoon of the 23rd day of May, 2012.
Minister Turnquest, who also serves as the F&M government's campaign spokesman, says he feels they had an excellent legislative session and they're now ready for an election.
The Prime Minister indicated at the last session of Parliament that we had concluded our legislative agenda. It's now time to return to the people of the Bahamas, their mandate, their government, and to ask for a fresh mandate. We are very confident that the Bahamian people will see it fit to return the Free National Movement to office and give us a fresh mandate by which we'll govern the Bahamas.
Now that the House of Assembly has been dissolved and an election date has been set, the next step is nomination day. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Well, many people who could have taken the total number of registered voters in the Bahamas up a few notches will now have to sit back and watch while others cast their ballots in the general election, all because they couldn't register to vote on time. Charisma Robinson was at the Parliamentary Registration Department this morning. She filed this report.
When our news team arrived at the Parliamentary Registration Department around 10 this morning, we met about 50 to 60 people packed in the department waiting to register to vote at the very last minute. But after about an hour, the crowd swelled, creating this line outside of the building.
While many people did take heed to repeated calls from Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham to register, a number of people waited until the last hour to do so. But here's what they didn't know.
If Parliament, the Parliamentary Elections Act says if Parliament is dissolved and the writ is issued today, persons who registered on the day when the writ is issued will not be able to vote in the 2012 election. You must be registered. You must be registered the day before the writ has been issued. That is the legal position. That's what the law says.
And while breaking down the number of registered voters to date, Deputy Parliamentary Commissioner Sherlyn Hall says today's events put a bit of a strain on his department as the number of workers had been cut down.
172,985 registered voters on the register, and that is approximately 22,000 more than we had in 2007. Parliamentary Commissioner Errol Battle did meet with some of them earlier this morning. He spoke to those waiting on the line, but they listened to what he had to say, but they were not very happy because they feel that I want to be registered anyhow.
But other than the long lines and the hectic registration process experienced by some early on, some people we spoke to today said they just weren't motivated to vote until this weekend.
Seeing the red splash on TV, I was very uplifted. I saw that, it's like, oh, I want to be a part of that, so I said, let me register just to make sure that once my party win, I could be a part of that too.
Bahamian time, I guess, after feeling a rush yesterday.
Around 12:50 this afternoon, scores of angry people turned away when they learned that it was just too late.
He wrong for that.
Working, and I didn't have the time. And now I really wanted to do it now, and he said you can't do it, so that's it.
But these two men say Bahamians have no excuse. Lord Roll and Shane Gentle were both disappointed to see the number of people who will not be able to express their constitutional right.
Other nationality who now become Bahamian, they've been registered a long time. From they given the first opportunity, Bahamian need to get out this slugness behavior. When time to register, go and register. Make up your mind later who you can vote for, but register.
They heard exactly what was said yesterday. They should have taken it into consideration and should have come out here from first thing this morning. Why wait until the appointed time? We have got to take responsibility for our actions and stop blaming other persons for our misfortune.
You were here today just to pick up.
Dear heart, I've been registered from last year. From last year I was registered and I came today to pick up.
Officials are appealing to registered voters who have not picked up their voters' cards as yet to do so as soon as possible. Reporting for NB12, I'm Charisma Robinson.